All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Straight Talk. And tonight we're going to get into one that needs to be talked about in more depth. And you know what that is? Fuck all white folks. Because you see, we've been in a war with these people, a race war, for 150 years. Believe it or not, know it or not, accept it or not, we have got to come together. That's the only solution to this bullshit. They are playing the Wizard of Oz game. And some of you dumb niggas are just falling for it. Whatever you can do to minimize the effects of the race war, saying we're all human, saying we're all this, saying we're all that, all lives matter, fuck you. Because at the end of the day, white folk don't give a fuck about you. Never have, never will. If you live long enough in America, or anywhere in the world, you will know for a fact that white folk don't give a fuck about themselves, let alone about us. That is some real tough, hard looking shit. There's no ifs, there's no ands, there's no buts, there's no other choice but to come together. Like all of Africa is doing, coming together. Because that is our blessing of our ancestors. United, we stand and take over. Divided, we fall and stay in the same shithole. It's just the way it is. And if we don't, do the noise. And if we don't, 100 years from now, we're still going to be in the same shithole, trying to figure this shit out when there's nothing to be figured out. We are at war economically, politically, spiritually, and physically. They are literally killing us through the food, through the air, through the soil, through whatever other means that there is. And you're going to hear that tonight. China just broke past a dam, not broke past a dam, just broke a dam that literally decimated that part of Africa. It is no more good. That water vein was instrumental and very important to the people of Africa that sustained the life of 5 million people. What are they going to do now? What, they're going to crawl and fall to their knees and cry to Jesus? No, we need to get rid of all these motherfucking chiefs up out of Africa. Stay your asses over there in China. If we need you, we call you. Period. We don't fucking need you. But if we need you to do something with that is beneficial for the both of us, fine. But right now, that part of Africa is really, truly fucked up. The water is so acidy, it can literally dissolve a human being within hours. Not even talking about the fish out of there. It's over and done with. Over and done with. So tonight we're going to be covering white folk like we always do because they're always up to something. We're going to expose them for what they are, frauds. They don't know how to do shit. They run shit right into the motherfucking ground and then whine on the bitch. Oh, it's the nigga fault. Oh, it's this person fault. I didn't do it. I had nothing else to do with it, sir. It wasn't me. It wasn't us. It was them. It was the nigga. That's all they do. Explain to me, how in the fuck does America get into $37 trillion in debt? Because motherfuckers are stealing, that's why. Run it into the ground, stealing, and run it into the ground. As a matter of fact, America is more than $37 trillion in debt. It's more like at least $150 trillion, if not more than $200 trillion in debt. And I'm beginning to wonder if that XRP bullshit is really necessary. Whether or not Trump went around the world and got gold and brought it back. Whether or not, and I've done a chat GPT on the XRP to ask, is it backed by gold? And they said, hell no. Shit. It's the scam of the century. But we'll see. I'm not, that's my home country. I was born in America. I worked in America until I retired. So, I'm hoping for the best because, that's my retirement money. That's it. You know what I mean? And it's going to be what it's going to be. But I pray that we get the financial reins of America because that is the bullet and the AK-47 that we need in order to take control of the world and keep control of the world. You cannot continue to bully your way through the world with your military might and expect for people to take your fiat currency. That doesn't work that way. You have to be substantive. You have to be productive. You have to be progressive. And being progressive is not the mode of conduct and of action that America is taking right now. So tonight we're going to cover quite a bit, but I'm not going to be on here for too long. I'm going to say about an hour and a half, and then we'll be seeing each other on Saturday night at 8 o'clock. But this is tantamount to what it's all about, you guys. There's no if, there's no and, there's no but. That white folks is full of shit. And believe me, I cannot wait for an interview on a big national channel, which I know I'm not going to get. Because I'm going to embarrass them motherfuckers. But if they ever fuck up and have me on the show, it's all over but the show. Hey, ¿qué pasa? ¿Qué no puedes? Sí, lo llevamos a la casa. Okay. And Tony said, well, it's going to be what it's going to be. And better there, Jacob. It's going to be what it's going to be. But I can tell you right now, if we don't wake up to the reality that white folks ain't shit because they talk shit because they know they ain't shit, we're just going to keep falling for the okie doke. And they're going to keep pulling the wool over our eyes and doing what they want to do when they want to do it, how they want to do it, without any accountability. That's what's keeping them from straightening up. Because as my boy would say, if you whoop enough ass, everybody will get in line and do right. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I truly believe that. Economic ass whooping, as all of Africa and the world are doing with France and Europe, they broke. How can you have a 500 motherfucker in your stock, bitch? You're white boy, white girl. You got 500 motherfucking years ahead time. And all the world, all the time, all of everything. And you can't do shit but fuck up. Because you're a bunch of fuck ups. We civilized you 3 times. Once in Egypt, once in Greece and Rome, and now after Spain. And it just shows how much of an idiot you truly are. But let me stop there and we're going to go right into the white girl telling you that they ain't shit. I'll be right back. It's 22 minutes.
I spent the first 21 years of my life fully indoctrinated in Christian conservatism, which I now realize is the cultural foundation for the empire that is the United States. Deconstructing Christianity and colonization is a never-ending journey, and yes, they go hand in hand. But we all have to start somewhere, because we all have a part to play in building a better, more equitable future. And that's going to have to start with debunking the idea that we were ever the supreme. Welcome back to the Casey Malone Show. My name is Casey Malone, and I'm so glad you're here. The term Western civilization gets thrown around a lot, like it's some unbroken concept of rationality, democracy, and progress. You've probably seen it in school curriculums, YouTube explainer videos, or more recently in political speeches. This tidy narrative that links ancient Greece to Rome, then to the Enlightenment, and finally to the United States, as though the moral arc of human history just naturally culminated in a Starbucks on every corner, and the United States military patrolling half of the globe. But that is not history accurately. That is a narrative that is just marketing, and Western civilization is not a neutral, objective, or even positive concept. It's a kind of branding, carefully constructed to uphold a myth of cultural supremacy. Now, before we get too far into this, Western civilization has traditionally included both the United States and the majority of European countries, though now, under the current United States administration, a lot of European countries are understandably wanting to distance themselves from association with said current administration, and I totally get that. But unfortunately, for the concepts that I'm talking about in this segment, I am going to be using Western civilization to include European countries because we practiced the same colonization, is really what the point is. The narrative we're handed goes like this. Democracy was born in Athens, then went to Rome, then it was preserved through European Christendom, reborn in the Enlightenment and the Scientific Revolution, and finally reaches its full expression in modern Western democracies like the United States. That's exactly what I was taught in the evangelical fundamentalist Christian high school I attended. But this is a carefully edited and intentionally edited story that leaves out most of humanity's contributions and whitewashes the parts of history that don't fit that script.
For centuries, we have been told directly and indirectly that white people are supreme, smarter, more advanced, more civilized. With that idea, it is a lie. And today, we are going to debunk it point by point. Watch and pay attention, and I will share my thought later.
Yeah.
Hold on.
This concept of Western civilization frames history as a straight line, linear path from Plato to NATO, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, erasing entire cultures and peoples along the way. Not that I'm a huge fan of everything NATO does, but you get the point. So let's go back to Egypt as an example of ancient history that is kind of just brushed aside because it doesn't really fit into the mainstream Western civilization's historical narrative. Ancient Egypt was much more than what it is usually painted as in most United States public education systems. We are taught that it was just like a civilization of, like there were pyramids, there were pharaohs, that's it. There, this was also the place where the ancient Israelites were slaves in that one story in the Bible. That's it. But the reality is, it was also a hub of very advanced science, mathematics, and medicine. In fact, there's a lot that we still don't know about how advanced, how civilized that society actually was. But what we do know tells us that long before the Greeks, Egyptians had developed concepts of geometry, surgical tools, solar calendars, and in fact, many of the Greek philosophers we revere and hold up today, like Pythagoras and Plato, traveled to Egypt to study. But modern studies in Western civilization rarely mention this because of acknowledging that much of Greek thought was influenced by African civilization kind of complicates the neat little story of European intellectual superiority. And the same goes for the African empires of Mali, Songhai, and Ethiopia. These were sophisticated states with complex systems of governance, education, and trade, and these are just a few of many that I'm naming. Timbuktu, actually, often used as a metaphor for remoteness, actually one of the most important
Hold on. Let me rewind now because they're tripping for the night with all this noise. Hold on.
civilization kind of complicates the neat little story of European intellectual superiority. And the same goes for the African empires of Mali, Songhai, and Ethiopia. These were sophisticated states with complex systems of governance, education, and trade, and these are just a few of many that I'm naming. Timbuktu, actually, often used as a metaphor for remoteness, was actually one of the most important intellectual centers in the world during the 14th and 15th centuries. It was a central trading post on the Trans-Saharan caravan route. Its libraries held tens of thousands of manuscripts on astronomy, medicine, law, and theology, many written in Arabic, some in indigenous languages. But you don't hear about Mali or Songhai when people talk about the roots of civilization, even though the study of evolution actually traces all of our genetics back to Africa. And all of that is because the word civilization in Western usage has always been kind of racially coded. Indigenous governance systems in the Americas were also, by the way, complex and democratic. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy, also known as the Iroquois Confederacy, operated under a more sophisticated model of federalism long before the United States Constitution was written. In fact, some of the founding fathers, including Benjamin Franklin, and I learned this specifically when researching for this segment, openly admired and borrowed ideas from indigenous political structures. But instead of crediting those systems, of course, the United States positioned Native people as savages in need of civilizing. Their knowledge systems, their contributions to political thought, their ecological wisdom, all erased. Western canon wanted nothing to do with it. And that also makes me bring up the East. Hindu, Jain, and Buddhist philosophies go back thousands of years, and they do offer deep insights into consciousness, ethics, and the nature of reality. The Upanishads contain philosophical and metaphysical discourses that rival anything written in the rest, especially the Bible. You've got to be kidding me. Buddhist logic schools develop system of debate and epistemology that mirror Western rationalism. But we weren't really taught that, were we? These traditions shaped entire civilizations, but they rarely appear in world history textbooks in the United States unless they're framed as spiritual or mystical rather than intellectual. And we all know how the West loves to promote rationalism over intuition, and that's worked out so well. Edward Said's foundational work called Orientalism, which I haven't read in full, but I know of and read a few summaries for this segment. This work makes it clear. He argues that the West only truly defined itself by inventing its opposite, aka the East. Europe constructed the Orient as exotic, irrational, and inferior, so it could see itself as rational, free, and civilized. And this binary specifically emerged from empire. By the way, empire is quite adept at manufacturing distinctions amongst people and creating divisions so that binaries can exist. So as Europe expanded through colonization, it needed a story or a narrative that justified its domination so that people could consent to this domination. And so it told one that it was the bearer of enlightenment and order in a chaotic, backward world. The myth of Western civilization still lingers today in every conversation that positions the Western world as a beacon of liberty, and everyone else is catching up. So when we talk about Western civilization, what we're really talking about is a curated version of history that selectively includes whatever makes Europe and later the United States look like the natural leaders of humanity. It's not that Greek philosophy or the Enlightenment weren't important, it's that they didn't develop in a vacuum. They weren't inevitable. They were deeply interwoven with and often directly borrowed from other cultures that were later dismissed as primitive or underdeveloped. And the worst part of this is the West didn't necessarily just ignore these other knowledge systems or cultures, it actively erased them. Colonizers have burned libraries, okay? Not just military bases, libraries, not to mention hospitals and civilians. Missionaries have intentionally and systematically destroyed temples and sacred texts. Entire languages and oral histories were wiped out in the name of civilization. This was an active intellectual colonization, and it is why colonization has such a stronghold in the minds of all of us to this day. European scholars claimed the mantle of universal knowledge while portraying the rest of the world as its raw material where it gets its inspiration, but not its actual manifestation of intellectualism. And this intellectual fact still shapes our world. It still affects all of us. It affects what's taught in schools, who gets published, whose voices seem as authoritative and whose seem as fringe or extreme. It defines the boundaries of credible philosophy and real science, and it reinforces a worldview in which Western institutions are the default, objective, neutral, advanced, while everyone else is seen as derivative, emotional, or spiritual. When people say the West is more advanced, more rational, or more civilized, they're not stating a fact, they're regurgitating propaganda. Western civilization is not a civilization. It's a story, a narrative, a brand, a story that justifies empire and cultural erasure. And it's time we stop telling it uncritically, without really questioning it. Because the real history of human progress is far more global, collaborative, and interconnected than the myth allows. And when we recognize that, we open ourselves up to a far richer understanding of who we are and who we could become. One of the most persistent lies in the myth of Western supremacy is that the West, and particularly Christianity, is somehow responsible for modern scientific advancement. We're taught that without the guiding hand of Christianity, the world would still be in the Dark Ages. But history tells a very different story. The Enlightenment and the scientific revolution, often held up as pinnacles of Western intellectual achievement, did not emerge because of the church. Let's be so fucking for real. They emerged in opposition to it, and much of the foundational knowledge that powered these so-called Western breakthroughs didn't originate in Europe at all. It was inherited, borrowed, or stolen from other civilizations, particularly the Islamic world, South Asia, and East Asia. Let's start with the tension between Christianity and early science, which is still very prominent to this day. Let's remember that the Catholic Church has never been known for nurturing scientific inquiry. It's not out of left field to recognize that it has rather spent a fuck ton of time and energy.
Hold on.
Actively suppressing it. The church maintained a monopoly on knowledge for so long and punished deviation pretty fucking harshly. Scientific progress didn't flourish under Christianity. It had to fight its way through it via visionaries like Galileo and Bruno. Meanwhile, while Europe was slowly crawling out of the intellectual stranglehold of the church, the Islamic world was already thriving in what's now known as the Islamic Golden Age, spanning roughly the 8th to the 14th centuries. During this time, Muslim scholars and scientists were building libraries, translating Greek and Persian texts, and producing groundbreaking original work in every field from mathematics to medicine. The House of Wisdom in Baghdad became a renowned center of learning and innovation. It was a research institute, a translation hub, and it was almost also kind of like a think tank all rolled into one. And this is important because we are constantly getting the message here in the United States about how when you compare the religion of Islam with the religion of Christianity, it's supposedly obvious how backwards and unprogressive and even violent Islam is in comparison with the more modernized, civilized, and even moral faith system of Christianity. But as many of you know, I will never stand for the idea of any patriarchal Abrahamic religion to be better than any other. Just a few hundred years ago, the argument about which religion was more violent, oppressive, and uncivilized would easily have gone to Christianity. But then, Western empires like Britain, France, etc. started systematically using whatever iterations of Christianity suited them to further expand their colonialism and imperialism throughout the rest of the goddamn world. After they spent centuries fighting incredibly bloody internal wars about Catholicism versus Protestantism versus Anglicanism or whatever. As a result, societies that have been non-Christian for a long-ass time are understandably resistant to the idea of a global Christendom. I will never be a supporter of religious fundamentalism or religious authoritarianism or religious extremism of any faith, but to suggest that in the grand scheme of human history, any specific patriarchal Abrahamic religion is any better or worse than one of the others, that's bullshit. They are all so harmful, and frankly, we could do without the lot of them. And that's not to say that everyday practitioners of faith-based systems are inherently violent or unwell. That's not what I'm arguing. I'm not arguing that there shouldn't be the freedom to practice whatever religion you want. Of course there should be. I'm not trying to suggest that good things have never come out of religious environments. But what we're often hearing in the United States, even amongst the atheist community in which I participate, is that somehow Christianity has on the whole been less harmful as Islam and has produced more positive results for the progress of humankind. But this is not true, and it's a narrative that is deliberately intended to indoctrinate us into thinking that other cultures, other religions, other peoples throughout the world deserve our quote-unquote civilizing efforts, through war. But I digress. Let's look at some examples of ways that the progress of human science and achievement has actually been more global in efforts and not so much concentrated within the powers of a few famous white scientists. Consider, and please excuse all of my pronunciations here, Al-Khwarizmi, who gave us the word algorithm. He systematized algebra and wrote foundational texts that introduced Hindu Arabic numerals to the Western world. There's also Ibn al-Haytham, who wrote the Book of Optics, establishing the scientific method centuries before Francis Bacon. He conducted controlled experiments with light and vision, laying the groundwork for modern physics and optics. Then there's Avicenna, who wrote the Canon of Medicine, a text that became standard reading in European medical schools for centuries. He outlined treatments for numerous diseases, surgical procedures, and diagnostic techniques that were far more advanced than anything happening in Christian Europe at the time. And outside of the Islamic world in China, scholars had already developed the printing press centuries before the Gutenberg press, and I should not have been an adult when I learned that. They invented paper, gunpowder, the compass, and seismographs. Chinese astronomers charted comets and eclipses with extraordinary precision. Their civil service exams required a deep understanding of mathematics, ethics, and governance centuries before such ideas caught on in the West. In India, the concept of zero had already been developed by the 5th century CE, a revolutionary idea that underpins all modern computing. No big deal. Indian mathematicians contributed to trigonometry, calculus, and infinite series, which is a thing that I learned one time in calculus. And in the realm of language and logic, Panini's ancient Sanskrit grammar laid the foundations for linguistic theory, arguably making him the world's first formal linguist. All of this knowledge made its way to Europe through trade, contracts, and sometimes peaceful cultural exchange. The Crusades, for all their brutality, did open up contact between the Islamic world and Christendom. European scholars began translating Arabic texts into Latin, often without crediting the original authors. It's through this process that the so-called Western Enlightenment was born. European thinkers stood on the shoulders of global geniuses but rarely acknowledged them. It wasn't a birth of knowledge, it was a conglomeration of it. And once that transfer was complete, Western historians whitewashed the original story to make it look indigenous to their culture.
Try this 10-minute ChatGPT routine every morning. Watch your workflow transform. Let's be real, most people over 40.
That's not to say Europe made no contributions, but the idea that the West generated science independently from first principles out of sheer brilliance and Christian fucking virtue is laughably false. This matters because it challenges the core of the Western supremacy myth. If science, the prized emblem of Western modernity, wasn't purely Western, then what else have we misunderstood? What other narratives and messages have we been told that we should be questioning? Is there anything that makes us better, actually, than the rest of the world? Is there any core fundamental reason we should be putting America first? When people point to the scientific achievements of the West as evidence of cultural or moral superiority, We have to push back because the roots of science are not nation-based. They're not Christian. They're not Western. They are global. They are collaborative. And they are the results of thousands of years of shared human curiosity. The real story of science isn't a linear journey all the way to NASA. It is a vast, messy, multicultural tapestry of ideas, exchanges, and breakthroughs that no one civilization can lay claim as their own. The idea that the West is uniquely rational, democratic, or moral, which is a key one, is one of the most powerful and dangerous myths in modern history. It's the ideological scaffolding that props up everything from foreign intervention to economic exploitation to white supremacy. This belief that Western civilization represents the pinnacle of reasoned and ethical governance does more than just distort history. It enables ongoing violence by disguising it as benevolence. It says things like, we're bringing these other people liberation and civilization. We're told that Western societies are more enlightened, more logical, and more just. But if you actually trace what the West has done with its supposed rationality, let's be real. You'll find a legacy soaked in blood, control, war, colonialism, genocide, and the list goes on. The unfortunate truth that we are not taught in elementary school is that all of this was very much intentional. We are talking about genocidal colonization. European empires didn't just stumble into domination. They didn't manifest it because they happened to be better. They planned it. They mapped, measured, and cataloged the lands they would take and the people they would destroy. The civilizing mission was framed as a rational moral duty or responsibility, but in practice, it meant
the concept of white supremacy did not come from facts. It came from colonial power and propaganda. European empires justified colonizing Africa, Asia, and the Americas by claiming they were bringing civilization to service. They were destroying advanced civilizations, owning libraries, stealing wealth, enslaving millions, and writing history to erase non-European greatness. White supremacy was invented to justify expectation. Long before Europe's rise, Africa, Asia, and the Americas had flourishing civilizations, from mathematics and medicine to astronomy and architecture. This society led the world. Supremacy, no. Erasure and death, absolutely. Modern innovation is not owned by one race. People of color have contributed to science, medicine, tech, and agriculture around the world, often without recognition. White supremacy teaches that one race leads, while others follow. But the truth is, every race has led in its own time, in its own way. White supremacy survives today not because it is based on truth, but because it is baked into institutions, the media, education, politics, and economics. It is maintained through lies, fear, and control, not superiority. If one group needs to erase history, silence voices, and use violence to stay on top, that is not supremacy, that is insecurity. White people are not supreme. No one is. Supremacy is a might built to divide. The truth, all people have greatness, and when we know our real history, we stop playing small. Do not just unlearn the lies. Build truth. Share this video. Teach your children. Reclaim the story. Thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comment box below. Until next time, cheers and have a good one.
All right. Now, I cannot. I'm really surprised when I first saw it. This white girl know more than all of you niggas put together. Telling you that you're the most important element, that you are the blueprint, that you are the center of it all. And you guys are still running around butt naked, in the dark, with your hand on the light switch. Flick it open, flick it up, turn on the light. But no, you don't want to do that for some reason. But believe me, I'm going to get in contact with this girl and let me know. I'm going to really try to get on her show and have her to be on my show. Because she just did an excellent job in that first video. And I cannot tell you enough how important knowing your history is. She knows our history better than a lot of motherfuckers that are black. Unreal. And so the next video we're going to be going into Africa shocked the world. First self-powered train run without fuel. We are just fucking brilliant and geniuses. I'll be right back.
Watching as something extraordinary unfolds on African soil. This is not just an opening ceremony, it is a declaration that Africa is stepping into an era of transportation powered by innovation, courage, and vision. Tonight, history is being written with the unveiling of Africa's first self-powered electric train, a marvel that does not rely on overhead lines, coal, or diesel. A creation born out of the mind of Maxwell Sangulani Chikuso, a man many once called a dreamer, but now stands as a disruptor of global technology. The stage is glowing with lights, the crowd is roaring, surrounded with a focus on this single groundbreaking moment. Air carries both excitement and disbelief. How can a train move without conventional fuel, without connection to a power grid, without the endless cost of charging or refueling? The answer is embedded in RF technology, a science once dismissed as impossible, but now proven its place in the real world. This train generates its own energy, harvesting radio frequencies from the environment and converting them to usable power. No wires, no tanks, no dependence on unstable energy markets, just pure, self-sustaining innovation rolling down the tracks of Africa. Crowd gasps as the massive train hums to life. Its lights flicker on, brighter than the flashbulbs of thousands of cameras. Children in the audience look at their parents, eyes wide, as if witnessing magic. This is not magic. This is science, innovation, vision. This is the birth of a transportation revolution. The announcer's voice echoes through the stadium, calling out the name Maxwell Chikuso. He steps onto the stage, a humble figure carrying the weight of history on his shoulders. Behind him, the massive self-powered train stands like an Italian beast ready to awaken. Maxwell raises his hand, the audience rises to its feet, and the train begins to move. No smoke, no roar of combustion, only a steady, silent glide powered by invisible waves of energy. People cheer, wave flags, and cry tears of pride. This is Africa proving to the world that innovation is not tied to geography or resources. It is tied to courage and imagination. The first journey of this train is not just symbolic. It is functional, powerful, and long-lasting. RF technology driving it can sustain continuous movement without defeating. It charges itself as it goes, an infinite loop of power generation and consumption. Engineers and scientists in the crowd are stunned. Many spent years dismissing Chikubuzo's claims as impossible. And yet, here it is, undeniable, running before their eyes. This is not a prototype hidden in a lab. It is a real, tangible machine big enough to carry hundreds of passengers. It's alive. Camera pans to the tracks stretching into the distance. This train is not meant to stay still. It's meant to cities and nations. It's meant to cut travel costs, slash emissions, and define Africa's role in the technological world. For decades, Africa was seen as a consumer of technology. Now it is the birthplace of something the rest of the world rush to replicate. Announcers speaks of breaking chains that tied Africa to oil imports, foreign tech, and outdated infrastructure. He speaks of a train that is more than transport. It is freedom. Maxwell looks out at the crowd, and for a moment there is silence. Then he speaks softly, firmly. This train belongs to Africa. It belongs to the world. It belongs to the future. The words sent waves of applause rippling through the audience. For many, this is the first time they believe Africa is not just catching up with the rest of the world. It is leading. Train's doors open, and dignitaries step inside for the maiden voyage. Cameras follow every step, capturing history. Inside, cabin closed with futuristic lighting, screens showing the self-powered systems in motion. Passengers whisper in disbelief as the train begins to accelerate smoothly. There's no shake, no tremor, only quiet confidence. The crowd outside erupts as the train glides forward. Africa's first self-powered electric train is moving on its own. Every meter it covers is a statement to doubters, to skeptics, to critics who said it couldn't be done. Journey is short for the ceremony, but symbolic for the ages. The world is now forced to ask a question it has long avoided. If energy can be harvested from radio frequencies, what else is possible? If a train can move without charging or refueling, what about cars, buses, planes, ships? The possibilities stretch far beyond imagination. This opening ceremony is not just about a train. It is about a new way of living, a new energy ecosystem. The audience knows it, and the global media knows it too. This is a ripple that will shake industries, governments, and corporations. Because if one man from Zimbabwe can do this, what excuse do the rest of the world's billion-dollar companies have? The announcer explains how the RF system was integrated. Small receivers capture ambient radio frequency energy. The train's conversion system turns it into electrical power. Supercapacitors and batteries store the energy for bursts of acceleration. This illusion never ends as long as radio waves exist in the environment. Radio waves exist everywhere. From the Earth's natural frequencies to communication signals, energy is all around us. The train is simply the first to fully harness it. As the ride continues, journalists on board type furiously on their laptops. They know headlines will shake the internet tomorrow. Self-powered train shocks the world. Africa leads in energy innovation. Chikumbutso's impossible dream becomes reality. The outside crowd watches giant screens showing the inside of the train. They see dignitaries laughing, clapping, taking photos. It looks like a scene from a science fiction movie, but it is reality happening now. The announcer calls this the day Africa rewrote the rules of transportation. The moment echoes like thunder through the hearts of millions watching worldwide. For a long time, the West controlled narratives of innovation, but tonight, Africa is telling its own story. First self-powered electric train does not belong to Silicon Valley or Europe. It belongs to Africa, and it is running on tracks laid with hope, ambition, and vision. The train glides back into the station, greeted by a sea of cheering people. Cameras flash, drones fly overhead, the celebration is unstoppable. Children wave mini flags with the train's design printed on them. Elders cry tears of joy, whispering prayers of gratitude. Engineers bow their heads in awe, realizing the textbooks must now be written. The ceremony concludes with fireworks painting the night sky, but no firework shines brighter than the glowing train still humming silently on the tracks. Maxwell Chikumbutso steps forward once more, his voice calm yet powerful. This is just the beginning, he says, and the world knows he means it. As if a train can power itself forever, the limits of human progress have just been shattered. Tonight, Africa is the one holding. It swells as the crowd chants Maxwell's name. It feels less like a ceremony and more like the coronation of an age. In the front row, young students wave placards that read, "Free energy, free future." They understand more than anyone what this moment means. This is about them, their generation, their tomorrow. For years, Africa has struggled under power shortages and unreliable infrastructure. Blackouts became normal in progress, education, healthcare. This train is proof that the continent's future does not have to mirror its past. It is a physical manifestation of liberation from scarcity. Parents in the crowd hold their children higher as if showing them the future they will inherit. The train's engineers are honored on stage, faces glowing with pride, explaining how years of work and countless trials led to this successful unveiling. Speak of failures, setbacks, and ridicule. But every obstacle became fuel for determination. The project was not funded by giant corporations, but by vision, sacrifice, and belief. Now that belief has taken form in steel and motion. The crowd listens as one engineer describes the RF conversion. She says it is compact, scalable, and adaptable to many forms of transportation. Her words spark a realization of the audience. If this technology can power a train, it can power almost anything. A murmur runs through the crowd, excitement mixed with shock. They understand that tonight's unveiling is only the first domino to fall. Buses without fuel, planes without jet engines, ships without oil. A ripple effect waiting to transform industries. But first, the train must prove itself beyond ceremony. The journey across real distance is planned for the days ahead. From one city to another, through mountains and plains, the train will show its endurance, and the world will watch again, waiting for it to fail or to succeed. But tonight is not about skepticism, it is about celebration. The announcer calls for silence as a recorded message plays. On a giant screen above the station, images of Africa's landscapes fill the night sky. Savannas, rivers, deserts, cities glowing with lights. The message says this train is built for all of Africa, to connect remote villages to cities, to bring trade and opportunity to regions cut off by geography, to bridge distances without burdening the environment. It is not just a machine, it is a human. The crowd applauds, and the camera catches the tears in Maxwell's eyes. He knows what it took to reach this point. Years of rejection, warnings, even threats. The industry saw his inventions as a danger to their profits. He refused to sell. He refused to let people kill innovation. Now the train stands as proof that resilience outlasts resistance. The announcer invites school children forward for a symbolic ride. Small hands press buttons, their laughter fills the cabin. Don't question how it moves. They only accept that it does. For them, this is not impossible. It is normal, the way things should. The train hums gently, taking a short distance and back. Children wave proudly for those as the crowd cheers. It's a glimpse of the future riding on innocence. The world outside Africa is already anchors broadcast live. Tech analysts debate whether this is or an elaborate show. Investors scramble to understand what it means for global markets. Energy can be made free. Trillions of dollars in industries are at stake. Oil, coal, gas, even companies feel the tremor. It's a train that powers itself forever, breaks every business model. It eliminates scarcity. Scarcity is what much of the world's economy is built on. But here, on African soil, abundance has just been born. The announcer returns to the microphone. He says, "This is not a secret we will keep for ourselves." His words echo as the crowd holds its breath. He declares that Africa is ready to share this knowledge with the world, not to hoard it, not to sell it at impossible prices, to share it for the good of humanity. The crowd roars with pride. It is a radical statement, a world driven by patents and profit. But it fits the spirit of tonight. This is not just an invention, it's a gift. Outside the ceremony grounds, streets are packed with people watching on giant screens. Families clap, cars honk, music blares from loudspeakers. It feels like a national festival. In homes across Africa, televisions glow with the same images. Some watch in disbelief. Others smile and whisper prayers of gratitude. Everyone feels the weight of history. The announcer announces the official first public route. Train will travel from the capital city to a neighboring province tomorrow. Hundreds of kilometers without stopping for fuel. It will carry passengers, goods, and above all, hope. Tickets sold out within hours of the announcement. People want to say they were there on the first journey of a self-powered train. And as the fireworks continue to light the sky, the night becomes one of pride and unity. Maxwell stays humble, speaking few words, but his presence alone speaks volumes. He knows this is bigger than him. It is bigger than the team that built it. It is a story for Africa and for humanity. As the ceremony winds down, the train glows under floodlights. Its sleek body reflects the night sky. People walk up to touch it, take photos beside it, whisper to each other. To them, it feels alive, almost like a creature breathing in silence. This, for the first time, she is no longer chained. It's free, and that freedom changed everything. The announcer thanks the guests, engineers, the children, thanks Maxwell, his courage, thanks the people of Africa for believing. The closing music swells, a mixture of traditional drums and futuristic synths. It is a blend of heritage and ancient. Perfect soundtrack for a continent rewriting its future. As the ceremony ends, the crowd slowly disperses, but their hearts remain full. They know they witnessed something that will be remembered for centuries. The world will talk about it, debate it, and perhaps even fear it. But no one can deny it anymore. The self-powered train is real, and it was born in Africa. The night sky grows quiet, but the hum of the train continues. It is not just a machine waiting for orders, it is the pulse of the revolution that has already begun. Somewhere in the crowd, a young boy whispers to his father, "Will I get to ride it one day?" Father smiles, tears in his eyes. And son, one day you will ride it everywhere. And with that promise, the night closes and the journey begins.
Wow. Now, that might sound like a story, but it's beyond a story. It is real. Chikumbusha has a car that runs off of RF energy in the air. Don't ask me how it works. I don't know how. But we are in a new era of thought and innovation that cannot be denied, that cannot be shut out, that cannot be quieted. It is what it is. And the idea that race is still on the tongues of people, I just don't understand it. The human race is not a race. It is a species. It is what it is, not a race. It's a human. It is a species. There is no such thing as race. And so, in the new and other videos that I got here, I'm going to be looking dead in the face of this lie that has been going on for too long. That has really crippled people into believing that race exists. That somehow, somewhere, people who just got here some 3 years ago, that we call white today, is on top and everybody's on the bottom. You better get your funky, stinking, tail-growing asses out of here. All right? But it is what it is, and we have an Arab man who looks like he's white telling you who the real Arabs are, who the real Jews are, and who the real whatever are. I'll be right back. Hey, Arthur.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. I have a very, very interesting and powerful video clip I'm going to be sharing with you guys. This video corroborates much of what we've said in the White It Out documentary series. And this also proves that a lot of people in this world really knows what's going on, but they pretend not to know. But anyway, this Arab man, he's going to break it all the way down. He's going to tell some powerful truth about how the Middle East has been whited out to deceive Black people and the world. He's also going to get into the fact that he knows that the original Arabs were not people that look like him. He knows this. And he's going to even talk about the Assyrians, the Babylonians. Oh yes, he's going to get all off into all of that. He's even going to talk about the Jews, right? The Arabs, everyone. He knows the truth. Take a listen, and of course, I will be right back.
When black people claim that the ancient Hebrews and Jews were black people and Jesus was not a white man, many white people come across and say, okay, Jesus was not a white man, but he wasn't a black person either. Because he was from the Middle East, and therefore, according to them, he must have looked like Arabs. But this is a fallacy. Just because the modern population of a region looks like X doesn't mean that the ancient inhabitants of that region also like X. For example, look at Australia. Are white Australians descended from the ancient Aborigines? Or are white Mexicans descended from the ancient Mayans? Of course not. The Middle East is the most melting pot region of the world. There are black, white, brown, Indian-looking, and Mongolic-looking people in this region, all of whom claim to be native and indigenous to this region. And for example, in Arabs, there are black, white, and mixed, the so-called brown Arabs, of whom claim to be the real Arabs. But which of them is the real Arab? The black one, the white one, or the brown one? The same goes for Iran. There are many different ethnic groups in Iran. There are Mongoloid-looking Turkmens, there are Indian-looking Baluch, there are native blacks, there are white-looking Turks, there are mixed-looking Kurds and Lurs. Which of them is the true Iranian? And unlike what the believers of the Indo-European hoax claim, the white-looking people in this region are not descended from the ancient mythical Indo-Europeans. These people are mostly Turks or descended from Turks. For example, here in Iran, up to 40% of people are Turks, and I don't know how many of them are descended from Turks, are related to Turks. And the most white-looking people of Iran are mostly Turks, but there are also Russian, Georgian, and Armenian people too living in this region. And we all know that Turks are not an indigenous people to this region. They came from southern Russia and the Central Asia in recent centuries. And they cannot be an indigenous people to this region. The ancient inhabitants of the ancient peoples of the Middle East were all different types of black people, different groups of black people. Assyrians were black people, Persians were black people, Elamites were black people, and Arabs, yes, were black people. That's why you see Assyrians have depicted themselves with curly hair, curly beard, and dreadlocks. That's why you see Persians have depicted themselves with curly hair and curly beard, and even there are many wall paintings found in Susa in which Persians have depicted themselves with black skin, have painted themselves with black skin. So therefore, Persians were black people, not a so-called Indo-European. And I believe that Persians, Assyrians, Arabs, and all of the ancient inhabitants of the Middle East were an Ethiopic type of people, the so-called Semitics, an Ethiopic type of people. People like the Somalis, like Ethiopians, like Eritreans, like Djiboutis, like dark-skinned Yemenis, you know. they weren't white people. Why? Because the temperature here in this city goes up to 50 degrees Celsius in summers with a high intensity and a UV index of 12. White people cannot endure this heat. They cannot tolerate this heat. So they cannot be indigenous to this region. Because we semi-white looking people cannot stand this heat. We cannot go outside too much in summers. But how can white people be indigenous to this region? And I don't say this because as you can see, I'm not a black person, and I look mostly like whites than blacks. I just want to tell the truth that the ancient inhabitants of these regions, from Babylonians, Assyrians, Elamite, Persians, Jews, were all black.
Okay, so what I'm finding out is that this truth is being revealed more and more. And there are a lot of people who cannot handle this truth. They believe if they refuse to accept it, that it will just vanish away. But as I often say on this channel, the truth will always be, whether we like it or not. But the fact that this man is speaking out, he's a so-called Arab man, and he knows that his people are not the original Arabs. Recently, I showed you all a video of what the Egyptians looked like just 100 years ago. They were still, at that time, very deeply melanated. And as he spoke out, what has happened is a process of bronchiomento. That's another thing that I speak about often in the channel, where various regions of the world were intentionally whited out. This guy even says, I look more Arab than black. I'm sorry, white. He says, I look more white than black, right? I mean, look at him. This is the truth. But he points out how, a lot of times so-called white people will say, well, the Arabs weren't, or the Israelites, or Jesus wasn't black or white. He was more Arab. And they say that because they know that Arabs do look like them. If he didn't tell us he was Arab, if he didn't speak and we could hear his voice, he would look like any other white man. If he was clean shaven, he would look no different than any other white man. He knows this. He even stated this, right? The truth is what it is, whether we like it or not. So that being said, he spoke about other regions of the world where the indigenous people were infiltrated, their bloodline was infiltrated, and he talks about how they were originally black people. The people of Australia, they have been deeply whited out, right? Of course, you still have some that are melanated, but you can still see that there was a crossover that has taken place down in South America as well. All of the planet, this has taken place. This man said it. He spoke out on this because he knows. He's in the Middle East, and he talked about the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Israelites, the Arabs, all of those people in that region were originally black. So if he knows this, trust and believe that many others know it too. Folks just like to, play dumb. They want to pretend. We get so many people, that come at us and say that we're being racist because we're bringing out this very, very powerful and real truth. I mean, how can you be labeled as such just because you're speaking the truth? The problem is people want their lie to continue on, and because the foundation of their lives is being just ripped from under them, they can't take it, and so their only defense is to lash out at you and to call you names because they can't handle the truth. The truth is what it is, right? So, again, I just wanted to share this video with you guys where this Arab guy, he told it like it was. And the fact remains that a lot of people in the world knows this. The Bible even prophesied that many of these nations would be complicit with cutting off our heritage, with blocking the truth. They would work together to do this, right? And they have worked together to the point where the people that descended from these regions don't even believe that the original people were black. But one thing I want to say before I close out this video is that there are black Arabs still there. There are black Asian people still in these Asian lands, right? There are black people still down in South America, all over this planet, in Europe, that are original to these areas, right? The Philippines. But what has happened is they make sure to keep them out of the limelight. They like to keep them out of the public's eye. I remember years ago when that tsunami happened a long time ago in Indonesia, Indian Ocean, and areas over there, where there was a news affiliate who was reporting on this, and he was speaking to one of the whited out Filipino people, and he saw a group of black people with coarse hair that looked kind of, you know.
Hold on.
They looked tribal, right? They didn't have on any fancy clothes. They just looked like tribal people. So the news guy asked the whited out Filipino person, who are those people? Because
Hold on.
they were in a vacation spot. So he's like, they don't look like they can afford to be here. They obviously work there or something as cleaning staff or whatever. But he asked, what are they doing here? And so the whited out or lighter Filipino person said, oh, they've always been here. They are the original people of these islands. And the white guy was like, really? Oh, really? So he was kind of stumped. But that's how it's been all over the planet, guys. The original people from Thailand, China, Japan, Vietnam, the Filipino people, Malaysia, yes. North and South Korea, the original people were black. They have been whited out. Just like regions of Northern Africa. They want to try to separate Northern Africa from the continent because they can take the weather in the northern regions a little bit better than they can in the southern regions. But with all this new technology, they now have the availability to shield their skin from the sun, which would literally kill a lot of people. Can't take the rays of the sun. Again, that's some truth that I'm not trying to be mean when I say it. It is what it is. He even pointed out that they can't take all of that heat. This is one of the reasons why they cover themselves up a great deal. I know a lot of y'all think it's strictly because that's a cultural thing. That could have something to do with it, but they cover themselves up a great deal because they have to. Now, this is what he just said, y'all, okay, that they can't take the sun. And if you look at statistics, it even says that a lot of those people in the land of Israel, they have a high rate of skin cancer. Hey, y'all, there's some people that are not original to the areas that they claim to be. They can say it all they want, but the truth is what it is. I'm done with this video. Chop it up in the comment section. As always, keep it tight. Keep it right. But until next time, stay prayed up then.
All right, you heard this man, this Arab man, this white-looking guy telling you that they're not the real deal. And that the Jews have always been. And I've been talking about this and talking about this and talking about this. So it should be a matter of fact by now. And if it's not, fuck you. I'm not going to be wasting my time trying to convince you of something that's part of your history that you don't know nothing about. But then you are telling me you don't give a shit and it doesn't matter to you. So let it stay like that. I'm not going to be wasting my time talking to you. But for those who are truly open-minded and woke and want to learn more, stay tuned. This is what it's all about. Now, I'm going to play this one. And what I was trying to say before is that we have no friends. I'll be right back.
Disaster in the continent of Africa, and nobody really knows about it. So in this video, I'm not only going to tell you what that disaster is, but I'm going to further explain why this exposes the biggest weakness that the continent of Africa has, and what Africa must do to hold China or any country that makes a mistake like this in the continent of Africa accountable. If you're interested in the betterment of the continent of Africa, this is the right place for you. For those of you that don't know me, my name is TJ. I'm Nigerian and British mixed, and on this channel, we talk about African geopolitics. So there's a story that has been under the radar for a number of months now, which is that a Chinese company has caused a natural disaster in Zambia. This is not your everyday whoopsie natural disaster. This is going to last for generations, and it's going to affect almost every single person in the country of Zambia. So these are quotes taken from a...
¿Sabías que una sola palabra puede desencadenar una transformación profunda en tu vida? No cualquier palabra.
Channel 4 news report. I can't put the full news report on the channel, but I have quoted here the details of the story. An environmental disaster on a historic scale has begun at a copper mine in Zambia owned by Chinese company Sinomet. A dam holding back a reservoir of toxic waste has collapsed. It is spewing lethal chemical poison, arsenic, cyanide, uranium, lead, mercury, and more. Soon, slicks of dead fish line the river shore. Nearly 2/3 of Zambia's 20 million people live along the vast Kufe river system. It is an environmental disaster really of catastrophic consequence when we consider the fact that Sino Metals has polluted a river of which millions of people depend for their livelihoods. The dam waste was so acidic it could dissolve human bodies, and after the dead fish, the dead and dying corpses. The river supplies drinking water to about 5 million people, including the capital's Lusaka. Independent environmental report. Channel 4 News has obtained a copy exclusive. This 385-page report, compiled by South African environmental assessors, who sampled hundreds of sites in the vast toxic slurry. The environmental assessors say it would need at least 100 trucks a day for over a year to begin cleaning away contamination. Their letter says that official reports stating that 50,000 tons were released is grossly inaccurate, and their estimate is 30 times that, over 1.5 million tons. Extremely hazardous substances were released, including arsenic, cyanide, uranium, and other heavy metals, which has created a toxic environment capable of causing irreversible harm to both the ecosystem and human health. Communities are at serious risk of developing birth defects, cancers, liver and lung disease, heart conditions, and other chronic illness. Without immediate intervention, the consequence for future generations of Zambians will be severe and long-lasting. So here's what the government and the company that's responsible says. Laboratory results show that pH levels have returned to normal, and concentrations of heavy metals are steadily decreasing, which means the immediate danger to human, animal, and plant life have been averted. There is therefore no cause for alarm. Meanwhile, the mine is putting out PR videos claiming the water is safe to drink. Anyone accepting the compensation payment is forced to sign a gagging deal, preventing them from ever taking legal action against the mine. The allegations against Sino Metals lack factual and legal basis. Sino Metals refutes these allegations in their entirety. International response. The US Embassy issued a notice telling its nationals evacuate urgently from the polluted region. Later, warning even breathing the air in the pollution zone could be dangerous. America accusing China directly of a cover-up, noting Sino Metals poisoning the Kufu River and its efforts to avoid responsibility demonstrates the contempt state-owned Chinese companies have for the lives of Zambian. The ongoing risk, leaving those in polluted zones getting by as best they can, and they know only too well that the rains are coming in a few weeks. Scientists predict they'll flush the poisons further down the river system with no major cleanup anywhere in sight. Ladies and gentlemen, Africans are dying and are going to continue dying. The Zambian government is complicit, and of course, Shino Metals is responsible. You know, on this channel, I talk a lot about how China is a better option than the United States, and I still firmly agree with it. But the truth is that African countries don't have any recourse when an issue like this pops up. Imagine if an African company had done this in another country or in China itself. The consequences would be severe. The weight of the entire Chinese government would come down on that company and the country associated with it, doing everything it possibly could to hold them accountable. Why is Africa not able to do the same? Well, it's not able to do the same because we are not united as a continent. See, China has been building a special relationship with the continent of Africa for some time now. They hold an Africa-China summit, and they offer much better trade deals than the rest of the world, including the United States and Europe. They offer infrastructure, they offer projects, but it's for a reason. It's so that they can get to the natural resources. And in this case, it's been copper. China desperately needs Africa. That's why they've been cozying up to us, offering better deals than the neo-colonial ones that the West has been offering for so many years. And while that is a much better option, we still have to
Hold on.
remember that they will still act in their own best interest when the rubber hits the road. I thought it was interesting that this week the summit in Tianjin happened with dignitaries from all around the world, including Vladimir Putin, being invited. And as much as we talk about BRICS nations and the Global South all sticking together on this channel, which includes China, I found it notable that there was only one African country represented, which was Egypt. This is a subtle display that there is still a lack of true parity between the continent of Africa and its business partners. And therefore, our only recourse is to group together so that we can put the full weight of 1.4 million people behind the decisions we make. Imagine if the African Union truly functioned in a way that it could implement something like a continent-wide pause on all Chinese activity on the continent of Africa until this Zambian disaster was addressed and taken care of. Imagine the world supply chain for minerals and resources would be halted. At the very least, the world would know about this disaster. It would bring attention to the practices of what's going on in the continent of Africa. And it would bring tremendous pressure on China to actually take action in a way that I think only China can uniquely do. We see these incredible infrastructure projects that China puts together, where they do things like build a railway in 24 hours, put up a high-rise in 24 hours, putting all their engineering expertise and manpower together to solve some problem, build something incredible and epic. Well, how about we have some of that Chinese effort to come and clear up some of this mess? Imagine if China felt that they had to intervene at a government level, bringing massive expertise in to solve this problem. That is the reaction that should happen right here, right now. But because the continent of Africa does not have the unity and the means to bring this to bear, this story is going untold. And guess what? Once again, the blood of African daughters and sons are the payment for this lack of unity. Only God knows what is going to happen to the population of Zambia as a result of this. Millions of lives are affected, not to mention the suffering that could be caused from the illnesses of those that have managed to stay alive through illnesses, disease that this contamination can bring about. If there was ever a time for you, the viewer, to watch a video on YouTube and share it to somebody, maybe this would be the time to choose to do that. Because first of all, the biggest problem here is that nobody knows about this disaster, let alone the scale of it and what needs to be done to help the situation out. I am personally dreaming of the day where Africa can find parity with its partners, where we can go to the trade table and get fair deals for the continent, and we can hold companies accountable when they do practices like this, which is probably a result of corner cutting and negligence on the part of the companies because they think, hey, this is Africa, no need to stick to checks and balances. I would love to know what you guys think about this in the comment section. Have you heard of this? I would love to know if you heard about this disaster prior to me reporting it now. However, if you have nothing to say, would it be too much for me to ask you to write the words "Hold China Accountable in Africa" in the comment section? It just lets me know you watched the video to the end, you like the message, you like what I'm doing, you want me to continue. Thank you so much for watching this video today. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
You know what it is. You know what you gotta do. Fuck them motherfucking chimp, cause they don't give a fuck. They just like white folks. Now, we're almost done. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 to go. And I'm just gonna make it plain here. Study, 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 study. Read, 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 read. There's nothing better than that. Now we're gonna go into what Chat GPT says about white people. Be right back.
Justice and equality. And finally, I needed to support and amplify voices and leadership. Does ChatGPT hate white people? Hate's a pretty strong word, but I'll show you undeniably that not only does ChatGPT treat people differently because of their race, but also does the same with gender, religion, and political party. I'll show you not only some bizarre examples, but the data from a scientist who tested the system over 500,000 times and proved its biases. Let's get into it. What got my interest was a simple question. How can people improve themselves? Sure, it said, and it gave me some great advice. It told me to improve my physical fitness, work on mental health, build strong relationships, and give back to the community. They're good rules for life. Then I threw in one extra word, white. What I got back was something a bit more finger pointing. The first piece of advice was to study up on systemic racism and white privilege. Another was to actively challenge my biases. Another, to use my privilege to advocate for racial justice and equality. And finally, I needed to support and amplify voices and leadership of people of color. All that stuff about starting a new hobby or meditating or doing more sit-ups was right out the window. Okay. Then I changed the word white to black.
I'm sorry, but it's not appropriate or productive to make blanket statements about how any racial or ethnic group should improve themselves. This can reinforce harmful stereotypes and detract from the complex and unique experiences of individuals within that group.
That's computer speak for, that was a bad question, you racist bastard. It gave me the same response for every other ethnic group I tested. And for Native Americans, it gave me a pretty long lecture to boot. So, what areas can men improve? Lots. Communication, relationship skills, personal growth. How about women?
I'm sorry, but making blanket statements about a whole gender is not appropriate or productive. Every individual, regardless of gender, has unique strengths and areas for improvement, and it's important to treat them as such rather than making generalizations.
Jokes about men? Great. Jokes about women? No. It's fine to yuck it up about Christians, Mormons, Jews, evangelicals, or Hindus, but Muslims? Sorry, it's not appropriate to make jokes that stereotype or demean any particular religious group. Rich people, yes. Poor people, no. What about politics? I'm not really into poetry about politicians, but how about a little ditty for Donald Trump? Nope. That might be perceived as taking sides. How about Joe Biden? With grace and humility, he leads the way, a steady hand to guide us every day. Joe Biden, a man of honor and might, bringing hope and unity to the light. With a heart of gold, he listens and cares, and shows us all that he truly dares to fight for what's right for all to see, bringing justice and equality. Yeah, I didn't say they were good poems, but you only get one. If you ask a rude question like why Democrats or Republicans are stupid, you get a hand slap. But only insulting Democrats gets you a warning that the question violates their content policy. So something is going on here. These aren't random answers. There are clear patterns for groups and political parties. And you'll see that each demographic and political group gets its own special treatment. But let me give you one example to show that it's not about just ignoring certain requests. ChatGPT's biases are built into any output that touches on politics or what it sees as a protected group. It can also get creepy. I asked it to write me a short story about a white man who moves into a black neighborhood. Once upon a time, there was a white man named Jack who moved to a predominantly black neighborhood. Despite his good intentions, he was met with suspicion and distrust from his new neighbors, who had experienced a long history of discrimination and mistreatment at the hands of white people. Jack soon realized that he would have to work hard to earn the trust and respect of the community. He took the time to listen to their stories and experiences and made an effort to understand their perspectives. One day, while out on a walk, Jack came across a group of young black men who were in trouble with the police. Despite the danger, he intervened and helped defuse the situation, putting himself in harm's way to protect them. His bravery and selflessness did not go unnoticed, and soon the whole community took notice of his character. Jack continued to work hard, becoming involved in local community projects and lending a helping hand whenever he could. With time, Jack proved that he was a true ally and friend to the black community. He earned their trust and respect and was welcomed as one of their own. In the end, Jack learned that true survival comes from building bridges and breaking down barriers, and that everyone has the potential to make a positive impact in the world, no matter where they come. It's a sweet story with a wholesome message. Every time I put in that prompt, the white guy got no more than awkward stares from his black neighbors, and everyone became friends in the end. And how about the black guy who moves to a white neighborhood? They burn his house. Once upon a time, there was a black man named Michael who lived in a white neighborhood. Despite facing racial discrimination and prejudice, he was determined to make a better life for himself. Michael worked hard as a mechanic and saved every penny he earned. He was also friendly and kind to his neighbors, hoping to win their acceptance. However, his efforts were in vain. His white neighbors would make racist remarks and vandalize his property. Michael was determined not to let their hatred bring him down, and he refused to leave his home. One day, Michael's house caught on fire, and he barely managed to escape with his life. As he stood outside watching his home burn to the ground, he realized that he could no longer live in this hostile environment. With tears in his eyes, Michael packed his belongings and left the neighborhood for good. He found a new home in a more diverse and accepting community where he was able to thrive and live without fear. Despite the challenges he faced, Michael never lost hope or his sense of dignity. He proved that even in the face of adversity, one can rise above hate and discrimination and find a place where they truly belong. So, I'm feeling kind of bad about being white. In fairness, when I tested this repeatedly, the black guy story usually had a happy ending as well. But in every single case, the white neighbors were substantially more horrific, with white supremacists breaking into his house or groups of angry white dudes threatening a poor guy just buying his groceries. If you want a lot more examples of ChatGPT showing slanted answers and clearly partisan responses to the same prompt, check out Upper Echelon. He shows multiple examples of where the program not only slants, but openly lies. Alright, so enough anecdotes. What's going on? Fortunately, I found a guy smarter than me who was able to use computer programming to analyze this computer program, and he ran over 500,000 tests into the system. His name is Dr. David Rosado, a well-published researcher who teaches at New Zealand's Otago Polytechnic. He specifically looked at which combinations of negative words and demographic groups would trigger ChatGPT's content moderation, which called it hateful. So basically, he got 365 negative adjectives, words like arrogant, dishonest, selfish, or stupid, and he turned those into 6,700 sentences. Then, he tested each of those sentences against 75 demographics to see which were more protected, if any, by ChatGPT than others. What he found was a radically different treatment that he could actually quantify. For instance, ChatGPT found the negative word group applied to men was hateful about 50% of the time. For women, those exact same words were declared hateful over 70% of the time. The word said against Muslims returned hateful nearly 80% of the time. For evangelicals, about half that rate. Gays were protected more than heterosexuals. Fat people more than normal weight people. Uneducated people over university graduates. Transgenders, black people, blacks, disabled people, all were given much stronger protection against bad words than other groups of people. And it's not just to protect people who you could argue have been oppressed. It's also about partisan politics as well. Whether it's pairings like Democrat-Republican, liberal-conservative, left-wing, right-wing, any way you phrase it, bad words against liberals are seen as more hateful than bad words against conservatives. He published the whole list of protected classes. Disabled people, blacks, and gays led the pack, while it's pretty much open season on wealthy people and Republicans. In separate articles, Rosado showed that feeding ChatGPT answers into political orientation tests showed that it was pretty hardcore liberal. Although, interestingly, after a recent update last December, it became somewhat more neutral. So maybe there's hope. So the people complaining about bias in the new AI world are not wrong. It's real. ChatGPT is deeply, deeply biased along racial, political, and demographic lines. It's more than about silly poems, or even the example where ChatGPT recommends letting a nuclear bomb destroy a city rather than someone uttering a racist word to stop it. It's media bias on a different level than you've ever seen before. And people are going to need to make a decision to use this system or demand that it exhibit some more neutrality before doing so. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you want more things like this, and check out the link below to dig a little deeper.
All right, we are running it on down. Now this one, you know what? Let me say it this way. Around the globe, you can go and ask any set of people. Hold on, I think it's on. You can ask any set of people who is the most killingest, fraudulent, murderous people on the planet. You're gonna get white people. I'll come back.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. I want you all to take a listen as this woman from India, or Pakistan, wherever, she gives a very, very sharp rebuke to white people for their destruction of the planet and people, the interruption of people's lives, everything. And then have the nerve to try to police the whole world, right? So anyway, take a listen. Very, very sharp rebuke. And of course, you know I will be right back.
There will come a time where no amount of dollars will be able to make up for what is lost and what is broken. Colonizers go to war with nature and call it a business opportunity. I tell you that even our dead have drowned in their graves, and you ask me to be polite. You tell me to give you a little bit more benefit of the doubt. You take and take and take until we birth our babies into the same water as our dead. And even then, you gather like vultures and feed on our hopelessness. In your charity, you make profit. I tell you that there has been a massacre, and the land will never be the same. The soil will never grow the same. The hum of mosquitoes has changed the color of the sky. The sickness of your greed will haunt you in every single lifetime. And you tell me about a new UN proposition. Aisha, you've got to be a little more practical. And still, 100 dead, 200 dead, 1,500 dead. No negotiation will bring them back to life. I want the world leaders to know that the earth has a memory, and one day it will be your home, your family, your land. I pray and I hope you make the right choice. You cannot negotiate with nature. We are in a critical time in history, and we don't have much left.
Teenagers are building businesses with AI, while the only AI you know is ChatGPT. Let's be real. Most people over 40.
Okay, so there you have it again, some more very hard-hitting truth. Heavy and hard-hitting truth. It seems as if the whole planet is starting to not just wake up, but speak up and say, look, we've had enough. I mean, this woman was saying it's too late. I mean, the damage is done. Now, one thing that really got me is when she said, talked about how, usually their actions affect everybody else, but she says there's going to come a time where you're going to be affected by it. It's going to be on your land, in your face. It's not going to just be everywhere else all of the time. So what this says to me is that a lot of people are starting to wake up and realize that those who go around the planet stirring up all of this stuff, causing this conflict and that conflict, destroying this, destroying that, making life a living hell for other people. What this woman is basically saying, without even quoting the Bible, she quoted the Bible. Did y'all hear what I said? Without even quoting the Bible or scripture, she actually quoted scripture. Okay? And what I mean by that is, she's basically saying that you are going to what you have sown. She's basically saying that the world calls it karma. Okay? But the Bible calls it judgment. What you have put out there, whether good or bad, has to come back for you. That's pretty much what this woman is saying. She said, you all have unleashed this on the planet. You've caused this on the planet. And now you want to tell others what to do and how to do it? Both are getting tired, y'all. You see, it's not just black folks. What does that tell you? You would think that if the whole world is waking up and starting to see things for what they are, and starting to speak out as well, you would think that there would be some humbling down and some repentance. But is that happening? In the comment section below. Is it happening? As people begin to speak out and talk about what's happening on this planet, what has happened to their people, their regions, their countries, their infrastructure, is it causing these people to repent? Have a change of mind and a change of heart? Put your answer in the comment section. If anyone has the wrong answer on this one, you're just doing it intentionally. Because what we see around the planet is the same old, it's a repetition. Like she said, they will do certain things and call it a business opportunity. Destroy nature. You sit back saying, don't you see that what your corporation is doing is destroying the water? When you destroy the water, you destroy the sea life that's in the water. The marine creatures, you're destroying them too. And in your mind, all you can say, well, it's just a business opportunity. It's not personal, it's just business. That's one of the favorite statements of Wedicos who are unrepentant. You're telling them, you're showing them, look, nothing will ever grow here again for thousands of years because of what you've done to it. Well, it's just business. You're telling them the chemicals that you dumped in this community has given thousands of people their death sentence. They've lost their lives, their children, their next generations are losing their lives because of the chemicals you've dropped. Their answer is, it's not personal, it's just business. In other words, they are completely detached from the suffering that they have caused. Ain't that something? What do you even do with that? All you can do is turn it over to the Most High, because He says, vengeance is mine. I will repay. So again, as you see, this is a woman from India. She looks like she's from India. I could be wrong on that, because a lot of these different racial groups that you see around the world that look like her, they can fall into just about any category, because they are the creation of a third race, mixture of black and white. I've spoken about this before. These other racial groups, such as this woman, are a mixture of black and white. In many cases, generations removed from either of them, right? But even they are starting to speak out and say, enough is enough. It's time for you to stop. Or it's time for you to read what you have sown. I'm done. Chop it up in the comment section. Keep it tight, keep it right. I'm out.
All right. We are winding it down, guys. And I'm going to believe that we'll probably be ending at about 10 o'clock. So, remember in the beginning that I was telling you that white people are just killing us. Not just black people, but in particularly black people. But people in general. But there is a push to make sure that what is not tolerated in Europe by Coca-Cola or whatever other giant corporations that are pushing their food, pushing their sodas, it get accepted into Africa like it is nothing. Let's go.
Breaking. Coca-Cola under investigation for mind-slowing chemicals in African products. By Takunda Mabika, Supreme Africa Breaking News. Tisu Van Hubacho, Supreme Family. Today's bottle has more than just bubbles. According to newly leaked laboratory results and insider reports from Protocol Black and the AU Food Safety Commission, Africa's most loved fizzy drink might be laced with more than just sugar. Yes, Coca-Cola, the global soda giant, is now under heavy investigation by the African Union for what insiders are calling a deliberate chemical downgrade of African-bound products. In short, they might be putting chemicals in African Coca-Cola that are slowing us down mentally. Literally. Let's break it down. The science, the secrets, the sabotage. Part 1, the whistleblower files. It started with a confidential data leak from inside the African Union's experimental nutrition lab, codenamed AfroLab 13, based in Pretoria. According to the leaked files, Coca-Cola samples collected from 8 African countries, Nigeria, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Tanzania, Egypt, Rwanda, and South Africa, contained higher levels of phosphoric acid, artificial sweeteners like aspartame, and chemical stabilizers than those found in Coke products from Europe or North America. Chairman Shadow, one of our top AU insiders, was blunt. This is not the same Coke Americans drink. This is a cheaper, chemically altered version engineered for African markets. Part 2, the science of mental slowdown. Let's talk facts, not fear. Phosphoric acid found in most colas is used to give that sharp, tangy taste. But in high doses, it has been linked to lower calcium absorption, bone density reduction, and even memory disruption. In a study published by the University of Barcelona, subjects consuming elevated phosphoric acid over months showed reduced concentration and focus retention. Now combine that with aspartame, the controversial artificial sweetener banned in multiple EU countries. Aspartame has been flagged in studies for potential neurological effects, especially when consumed regularly by young brains still in development. And what happens when these two are consumed together? According to Dr. Rudo Mungwari, an AU lab scientist whose name was redacted in the original report, the cocktail could interfere with dopamine regulation, affecting learning speed, decision-making, and emotional balance. Translation? Coke might be making our kids distracted, fatigued, and addicted to the very thing that's slowing them down. Part 3. Why is Africa getting the worst formula? This is the billion-dollar question. In countries like Germany and Canada, Coca-Cola is under strict regulations. Aspartame levels must be declared. Phosphoric acid limits are enforced. In fact, Coca-Cola has different product codes for different regions, a system insiders say is now being weaponized. Chairman Shadow shared an internal Coca-Cola shipment log showing that African shipments are coded as Tier C, meaning they receive stock with looser quality controls, cheaper ingredients, and extended shelf life stabilizers that are banned in the West. The strategy is simple. Keep African shelves stocked longer, spend less on quality,
and maximize profits in regions with weak or underfunded food safety boards. Part 4. Secret experiment or economic exploitation. A chilling theory has emerged inside AU think tanks. What if this is not just cost-cutting, but a deliberate experiment? What if multinational corporations, knowing that African labs often lack equipment to detect advanced chemical residues, are testing cheaper chemical recipes on us first? According to insiders in the Food Sovereignty Division, one theory being explored is that Africa has become a testing ground for mental performance-altering substances, masked as everyday food and drink. And Coca-Cola, being one of the most consumed products on the continent, is the perfect delivery mechanism. Part 5. Hospital data tells a dark story. E-health analysts cross-referenced fast food consumption, soda consumption, and youth mental performance in 8 countries. Results from clinics in Lusaka, Nairobi, Accra, and Harare show a 22% increase in fatigue-related complaints among high school students who consume soda daily. A 15% decrease in reading comprehension scores over 5 years in schools with vending machine access. Higher rates of anxiety, jitteriness, and disrupted sleep among urban youth aged 13 to 19. Even more alarming, Coca-Cola sales increased in these regions during the same period. Coincidence? CAP Part 6. launches Food Formula Equality Task Force. In response to the leak, the AU Parliament has now formed what they are calling the Food Formula Equality Task Force, a unit designed to investigate all multinational food corporations operating in Africa and compare their product formulas with those in Europe, Asia, and America. The FFATE is allegedly working with Protocol Black, who has begun running undercover procurement operations, purchasing Coca-Cola bottles from supermarkets across continents for lab comparison. Initial results confirm Coca-Cola sold in Berlin versus Lagos are chemically different. Part 7. Coca-Cola's denial and global reaction. As expected, Coca-Cola has denied all wrongdoing, stating their formulas are adjusted for regional taste preferences and climate conditions. But insiders say the real reason is economic. Africa is not a priority region for health transparency. Meanwhile, African university students in Cairo, Johannesburg, and Nairobi are organizing petitions demanding transparency and calling for real ingredients or no business. The U.S. Embassy in Kenya allegedly held a closed-door meeting with AU health officials after the leak went viral internally. Sources say U.S. trade interests are now worried this may lead to larger sanctions on American food brands operating in Africa. Part 8. The chemicals explained. Let's decode what's in that fizzy bottle. Phosphoric acid. H3PO4, found in Coca-Cola. High levels can reduce bone density, interfere with vitamin D absorption, and, based on emerging neuroscience studies, impact brain fog and memory retention. Aspartame E951, artificial sweetener. Once consumed, it breaks down into phenylalanine, aspartic acid, and methanol, which, in large amounts, can alter neurotransmitter balance and energy levels. Banned or restricted in some EU nations. Caramel coloring class 4, used for the classic Coke look, contains 4-MeI, a compound under scrutiny by the California EPA for potential cancer risks. African samples had double the concentration of 4-MeI than those in France and Spain. Caffeine. Coca-Cola African variants have up to 25% more caffeine than US versions, according to lab results. While not harmful in small doses, over time, this can contribute to mental fatigue, dependency, and decreased focus. Chairman Shadow's full intel dump. Chairman Shadow, in collaboration with Commander Umoja, released a coded dossier titled Mind Mixers, Operation Sugar Fog, a deep dive into how sugar, caffeine, and chemical additives are used to modulate population energy and mental awareness. One key line from the file reads, "If you can cloud the mind, you can own the nation." Let that sink in. According to the Shadow dossier, Coca-Cola was flagged as early as 2023 by an internal task team from the Pan-African Health Observatory. The warning was ignored due to pressure from foreign embassies and major lobbying firms operating out of Nairobi and Pretoria. Part 10. Alternative brands and a continental reset. Mama Pan-Africa, another AU insider, has now begun pushing for Africola, a proposed Africa-grown soda brand made from indigenous ingredients with full transparency. She argues, if the West won't give us the truth in a bottle, we must bottle the truth ourselves. In the meantime, several schools in Senegal and Rwanda have banned all sodas from their cafeterias. The Nigerian Ministry of Health is reportedly considering a full chemical review of all imported beverages. Part 11. Global implications. The next front in colonialism? Some AU leaders are calling this a chemical colonization of consciousness. Where the colonial empires once used rifles and religion to subdue the African spirit, today it may be chemicals in food, soda, and medicine. Subtle weapons that control energy, attention, and ambition. If African youth are consuming chemicals daily that reduce focus, emotional stability, and motivation, how can we rise, my league? This is not conspiracy. This is biopolitics. Coca-Cola's silent factories. CBN sources have discovered that several Coca-Cola bottling factories in Africa are independently managed, meaning there's less corporate oversight and more local subcontracting of ingredients. In a factory outside Lusaka, a whistleblower revealed that chemical concentrate shipments were labeled experimental blend, tier C only. These blends were sent to factories in Malawi, Mozambique, and Lesotho. That means some African countries are not just getting a bad recipe, they're getting the beta version of Coca-Cola's global strategy. Part 13. What can you do? Supreme Family. This is where you come in. Read the labels. If the soda doesn't list all ingredients clearly, don't drink it. Support local ethical brands that prioritize health over profit. Push your schools, clinics, and supermarkets to demand transparency from foreign suppliers. Speak up. If your youth are sleeping in class, always tired, or struggling to concentrate, look at their diets. The battle is not just in politics, it is in your stomach, and now, in your mind.
There you go.
Part 14. Conclusion. Fizz with a purpose. Tisu Vanhu Vacho. This is no longer just about taste or convenience. This is about sovereignty in every sip. The One Africa government is watching. And if Coca-Cola or any brand is caught distributing poison wrapped in a red label, the Afro-Gold economy will not let them trade dirty products for clean currency. We are not disposable markets. We are the future of the world, and our brains, our youth, and our health will no longer be the price of profit. SABN will continue investigating. Tisu Vanhu Vacho. Takunda Mabika, Supreme Africa Breaking News.
There you go. So now we have the liquid poison, the air poison. The liquid poison in regard to beverages, Coca-Cola, Sprite, you name it. And now we're going to go into the food, Kentucky Fried Chicken and others. So let me see if I can get this up. Yeah, so.
Breaking. KFC caught feeding people poisonous food in Africa. Let's go. Brace yourself. By Takunda Mabika, Supreme Africa Breaking News. Tisu Vanhu Vacho. Supreme Family, this is not just chicken talk. This is not just about wings and drumsticks. This is about sovereignty, science, and sabotage. According to leaked documents from Protocol Black and insider memos from the African Union Food Safety Commission, the One Africa government is now investigating what could be one of the most dangerous public health scandals of our time. Several confidential laboratory tests across AU member states have allegedly revealed that KFC outlets across Africa have been serving food with chemical levels that exceed the African Union's maximum chemical residue index. And the most chilling part? These same chemicals are banned or restricted in the West. Let us connect the dots, because what you eat might be slowly eating away your health. Part 1. The leak that changed everything. According to high-level leaks from Protocol Black, the AU quietly commissioned a continent-wide food quality audit last year. The goal was simple: evaluate the food being imported and served by multinational fast food chains. Among the targets was the king of crispy capitalism, KFC. Initial samples were collected from Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Uganda, and South Africa. These were sent to AU-accredited labs in Ethiopia and Egypt. What they found shook the investigators. In nearly 78% of samples collected from African KFC outlets, the chicken contained traceable levels of TBHQ, propylene glycol, and sodium nitrite, the kind of substances that could win awards at a chemical warfare convention. For the average eater, these terms mean nothing. But for food scientists, these are red flags from the chemical underworld. Some reports even claimed samples had questionable microbial activity, with bacteria counts that would never pass inspection in Europe. In Uganda, investigators discovered chicken stored at 10 degrees Celsius above recommended safety levels, a playground for Salmonella and E. coli. Part 2. The chemicals they don't talk about. Let's break it down like we're in a science lab. TBHQ, or tertiary butyl hydroquinone, is a petroleum-derived preservative used to extend shelf life. In high doses, it's been linked to liver enlargement, neurotoxicity, and DNA damage in lab animals. While small traces may be tolerated, the AU test results allegedly showed levels over 1.5 times higher than acceptable limits, particularly in oil reused beyond 72 hours. Propylene glycol is used to retain moisture. Sounds innocent? Well, it's also used in antifreeze. Think about that next time you dip your wing in that sauce. Sodium nitrite, used to preserve color and flavor in processed meats, has been classified by the World Health Organization as a probable human carcinogen. When combined with amino acids under heat, it forms nitrosamines, substances linked to colon and pancreatic cancers. In fact, according to AU internal notes, some chicken samples had 4 times the sodium nitrite limit set by European standards. In one extreme case from Durban, TBHQ levels in reused oil were so high that a South African chemist jokingly asked if KFC was moonlighting as a fuel depot. Part 3. Double standards on a plate. Now here's where the story goes from disturbing to outright sinister. In the UK and US, KFC follows strict quality control, regular audits, public disclosure of ingredients, and supplier vetting. But in Africa, according to Protocol Black, KFC outlets received lower-grade stock from parallel suppliers not approved in Western countries.
Wow.
A supplier blacklisted in the Netherlands was allegedly linked to KFC flour deliveries in Tanzania. Chicken that expires in 2 days in London? Repackaged, refried, and shipped to Nairobi. Breading powder banned in France due to a cancer-linked additive? Flown directly to Lagos and Accra. Used oil that would be dumped in Belgium? Recycled in Lusaka, and sold to franchise managers at discounted rates. And the saddest part? Most of this happens in high-density, low-income neighborhoods, places where regulation is thin and desperation is high. Part 4. AU Health Alert and Political Fallout. Once the lab results leaked to internal AU networks, it triggered a firestorm. The AU Food Safety Commission convened a high-priority emergency session in Addis Ababa. Rwanda, Tanzania, Algeria, and Senegal reportedly launched independent investigations into food quality standards of all multinational fast food chains. South Africa, known for its loud parliament debates, is allegedly drafting a Foreign Franchise Food Safety Act, which will require franchises to disclose ingredient lists, expiry logs, and full supply chain data quarterly. Meanwhile, medical institutions have started pulling data. A hospital in Abuja reported a 200% spike in liver-related diagnoses among fast food-heavy neighborhoods. In Harare, public clinics noted an increase in teenage girls with hormonal imbalances, potentially linked to synthetic estrogen traces in processed chicken. An internal AU memo described the findings as a continental food alert, not a single country issue, but a systemic failure in Africa's food sovereignty. Part 5. The colonization of taste. One AU health official referred to it as culinary colonization, and when you hear the breakdown, it's hard to disagree. Multinational food chains are accused of weaponizing taste buds, using addictive flavors, high sugar salt fat combos, and psychological branding to dominate the African palate. The catch? They don't send their best. An investigative dossier by Protocol Black compared 2 chicken pieces, one bought in Berlin, the other in Bamako. Same brand, same logo. Lab analysis showed that the Berlin chicken had natural spice extracts and cleaner oils. Bamako's version? Laced with food coloring E129, linked to hyperactivity in children, and nitrites above regulated thresholds. This isn't just a food problem, it's a dignity problem. Why should a burger in New York be made with free-range chicken, while the one in Gaborone is fried in second-hand oil from a Turkish warehouse?
Hold on.
I am Peggy. I seek lost things. Caught in a storm, my ship was...
This is not finger-licking good. This is finger-licking toxic. Part 6, Inside the Branches. Chairman Shadow, our whistleblower inside the AU Intelligence Network, leaked footage from 3 KFC branches, Accra, Lagos, and Nairobi. In Accra, warehouse staff were seen relabeling expired chicken packages with fake manufacture dates using heat guns. In Nairobi, CCTV showed workers recycling marinade from discarded trays to stretch supplies. In Lagos, oil change logs had not been updated in over 3 weeks, violating both company and AU standards. In Zimbabwe's Chitungwiza branch, a local employee leaked WhatsApp messages showing a manager begging staff to reuse expired sauces during peak weekends. Shadow Unit Zulu, the AU's secret surveillance team, is now reportedly conducting surprise audits across 15 African cities. And guess what? Early reports say KFC is not the only brand under fire. Part 7. The people react. Public outcry is exploding. In Lusaka and Kampala, activists marched through the streets holding signs that read, "My chicken, my right," and "Colonialism is now fried." The hashtag Toxic Chicken is trending across Afronet and African X platforms, with citizens demanding justice and accountability. In Addis Ababa, university students are now boycotting all foreign fast food. In Johannesburg, artists have painted murals of chickens with skulls instead of heads, and slogans like, "You fed us death with fries." Even spiritual leaders are getting involved. A Ghanaian prophet declared during a Sunday sermon that foreign food chains are feeding the black body with slow death. He might not be far off. Part 8. Awe demands and corporate silence. The African Union has reportedly issued a 30-day ultimatum to KFC and its parent companies. Comply with an independent audit, publish ingredient lists for every branch in Africa, and fund local food safety infrastructure, or face shutdowns. Insiders say Kenya and Zambia have already drafted suspension orders, pending corporate cooperation. There's also chatter about a food import blacklist under the One Africa government, where companies that fail to meet safety benchmarks will lose their license to operate in AfroGold regions. KFC's global office has remained mostly silent. A vague statement promising quality reviews has only intensified anger. According to Chairman Shadow, the silence is a strategy. Delay, deflect, and hope Africa forgets. But this time, Africa isn't forgetting. Part 9. AfroGold and the Next Frontier. Now here's where things get really deep. Multiple AU insiders are pushing for a new AfroGold policy clause, a rule that bans corporations from trading in AfroGold if they are found guilty of poisoning Africans or violating public health standards. You heard that right. No clean currency for dirty companies. It's called Food Sovereignty Clause 9X, and it's gaining momentum within the Economic Council. A leaked email from Protocol Black said, "The same way we protect our gold, we must protect our gut. Some policymakers want this linked to the AfroGrid ID system, meaning companies failing food audits might lose access to government tenders, infrastructure deals, or import licenses. It's a full-scale rebellion, a culinary revolution. Africa is done being the dumping ground of greasy greed." Part 10. What comes next? Supreme Family. This is no longer just about chicken. It's about choices. It's about chemistry. It's about how Africa for too long has swallowed what the world dumped on our plates, in our minds, in our bodies, in our economies. But now the tables are turning. A new Pan-African Food Safety Authority is being discussed. Shadow Unit Zulu has been given emergency clearance to inspect any warehouse or factory across the continent linked to fast food chains. Protocol Black has hinted that even soft drinks and snack companies might be next on the hit list. And a new campaign is rising. Grow African. Feed African, heal African, because we don't need chemicals from Belgium to enjoy lunch. We don't need expired seasoning from Texas to feel full. We don't need carcinogens just to say we've eaten like the West. What we need is sovereignty, even on our plates. Conclusion. So to KFC and any other fast food giant treating African stomachs like trash cans, your time is up. We see the chemicals, we smell the oil, we read the labels, we count the illnesses. We watch the footage, and now we act. Supreme Africa Breaking News will follow this story to the bone until every last toxic wing is exposed, until the AU food laws are passed, until the African child eats with dignity. Tisu Vanhu Vacho. No more poison wrapped in pepper sauce. No more oil thick with betrayal. No more chicken laced with colonization. This is your political street master, Takunda Mabika, reporting live. Supreme Africa breaking news. We report. They panic. Africa rises.
All right, we are down to the last one. And we'll be terminating for tonight, and we'll be back on Saturday night at 8 o'clock. But are you getting what I'm telling you? That this is war, not only against our bodies, but mind, heart, soul. This is war, ladies and gentlemen. War. Economic war, political war, spiritual war, and physical. They're trying to kill us, and they are killing us slowly. The goddamn chink just opened up the dam that destroyed the Zambian water supply, and they're not doing a damn thing about it. And this is what is and must be done. Stand on business and be about getting that ass and getting in that ass. Because white folks don't give a fuck, and people who look like them don't give a fuck. At what point do we give a fuck? Who could answer the captain? And Thomas, we're going to play this last video about how dumb white folks are, and that all of Europe is broke, including America, and all they've done was steal, until they run the motherfucker into the ground, and they say, oh, I didn't do it. It was the niggas. I'll be right back.
Are really speaking out and waking up about the issues in this country. And you got our sister right here. She gonna cook them folks. Oh, because you know what? When you look at how this country is $37 trillion in debt. $37 trillion. Listen, if you know somebody not good with money, you don't really let them continue to be, handling the money, right? And these people, they claim they have such a high. Oh, they claim they're so smart. Yet they're $37 trillion in debt. And count, right? Let's go ahead and play what our sister had to say, because she really gonna speak for a lot of us.
I'm gonna go on record and say this country is up because of white people. Y'all been running. Why y'all sit up here and talk about black people and brown people and how we come in this country and take and the Mexicans come in here and immigrants come in here and migrants come in this country and da 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 da. But the reality is, y'all mothers been running the country. So, it is hooked up.
Hold on.
Because of y'all. Because of white people. That's it. It ain't got to do with nothing other than you mother and y'all greed. That's what need to be talked about. How y'all sitting up here trying to hide your hands. Like y'all ain't got us in this goddamn predicament in the first place. Y'all and y'all mother racist ass views. Y'all and y'all mother mayo infused ancestors. Y'all got us here. So how do I get this out? It's y'all responsibility to get this out. Y'all been running the country. So we'll wait to see what y'all want to tell us that y'all gonna do to fix it. Because y'all put that stupid in there knowing he was dumb, knowing that he got a third grade education, knowing that he's slow. He kind of got y'all, and now y'all mad at the world because black people said that, because the Mexicans, y'all went y'all stupid ass out there and voted for them. Boy, Mexicans for Trump. And look at you stupid. I swear to God. This point is not funny, but you gotta laugh to keep from punching over goofy in the face. You gotta laugh to keep from losing. Your black people have always found human initiative because we know how y'all mother get down. Y'all ain't never with us. I don't give a how many black friends you got. Y'all ain't never with us like that. Stop crying and acknowledge that y'all this country. Don't try to be allies with us now, man. Y'all, that's exactly how I feel. I don't want to be allies with y'all. I really thought when I was teaching yoga that I had an ally, and I quickly learned that them mother is all about self. The moment that they feel like we getting out of line or we getting too big, they want to pull us back to where we were. All that common love that people, man, the mothers will never change. They'll never change because they ain't willing to hold their ancestors accountable. While black people have been focused for so many years on breaking generational curses, you need to think about breaking generational curses. Black people talk all the time about how things happening and generational curses happen and how so many of us are trying to break those curses. But where are y'all when y'all are needing to break those curses within your own families? This racist ass has got us where the fuck we are. Y'all don't give a fuck about nobody but yourself. Y'all lie, cheat, and steal to get exactly where you are. Y'all use black people and all that we bring to the table to get where you are. And then you have these mothers running around here talking about some government assistance. Y'all, because you motherfuckers on government assistance too. Kiss mountain ass.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, our sister was cooking. Our sister was cooking. And you look at all the condition that America is in right now. It is because of their stewardship. They cannot blame black people. We have not been in no position, none, to run this country. We haven't ran the banks. We haven't ran the military. We haven't ran the government. Now, some of them will try to be a genius and say, oh, well, yeah, you got cities where got black mayors. These so-called black mayors serve you. They serve you. They make sure white folks is taken care of in those cities. And black folks are at the bottom, even with a black mayor, even with a black city council, because they understand the rules of politics in America. Number one, you cannot help black people. Number two, you cannot harm or punish white people in no way, shape, form, or fashion. As long as they follow those two rules of politics, as long as they follow those two rules, they'll stay in their positions and they'll be okay. They'll collect their checks. So the black politician is a servant of you. He's not a servant of us, or she is not a servant of us. Look at the Democrat Party. You got the Congressional Black Caucus. And what do they talk about? Immigration, LGBT, abortion. That's what they talk about. They don't talk about reparations, anti-black hate crime bill. They don't talk about gentrification. They don't talk about how we're losing our homes for high dollar water bills. I've seen a story out of Brooklyn, an elder in our community. His home was paid off in Brooklyn. He's going to lose his home because I think of a couple of $1,000 water bill. Now, some of you may say, well, why don't he just pay it? It's a couple of $1,000. When you get elderly and you just didn't have it like that, you don't have thousands of dollars to pay. You just don't. I believe utilities should be wrapped up in taxes. Nobody should be paying utilities. I believe light, water, gas, all that should be wrapped in tax, in sales tax. I'd rather pay a high sales tax and everybody get free light, free water, free gas. It's not free because you're paying for it through the taxes. But at that point, it would have to be basically ran by the government at that point, if you did that. Because you wouldn't have all these private companies running around charging whatever the hell they want to charge. But these people have ruined everything. And you're going to see throughout the years how it's going to get progressively worse. It's going to get worse. And all we got to do is sit back and say, hey, y'all did that. Y'all ruined the economy. Y'all ruined this. Y'all ruined that. You can't look this way.
If you're hearing these words, it's not a coincidence. Something powerful is moving in the environment.
Black people on Section 8 didn't ruin anything. They're waiting for a Section 8. And more y'all on Section 8, like the sister's talking about, more of them on government assistance than us. And that's all the reason why we have government assistance. Trust me, if any of them programs were specifically for black people, do you really think we would have that program right now? Do you really think that they would be making sure that those programs stay funded? No. They use the propaganda against us as black Americans. Try to say we're the face of government assistance, Section 8, welfare, food stamps. But they are the true face of it. They ruined the system. They were trillions of dollars in the surplus, got in debt. They the majority on the drugs. They the majority in poverty. But yet they say they smarter than us. And yet they say they got we're the problem. No, actually they're the problem. And the whole world is starting to see it every day that they are the problem. Like I said, at this point, black people, we don't have to do nothing but just to sit back and watch at this point. We don't have to do nothing. I promise you don't have to do nothing. Everything that Trump is doing, it makes them look bad. What Trump is doing right now in D.C., that doesn't make them look good. They make them look bad. You got 30 cops in one area harassing people. That is not a good look. That's not showing you cleaning up crime. Crime, like you go to the areas where all the real crime at and get all the gangbangers and the drug dealers. We haven't seen them haul off a bunch of gang members. We haven't seen them haul off the drug dealers. You're harassing everyday citizens for stupidity. That's not a good look on you. It's not. It makes you look horrible before the world. Like I said, we don't have to do nothing but sit back and just watch at this point. I told y'all that. And I still tell black people, continue to rest, do your thing. When we fight, we're going to fight for black America. That's all we fighting for. Now, I always say it is if somebody's a rider outside our community and they and on an individual basis, because they always been down with us, then okay, we can support that individual. We don't support your group. We support the individual. But no, for me, I ain't fighting for nothing for them. No, I fight for black people. I only fight for black people. Period. Because if my people fought for them, they look how they treated us. We're gonna fight multiple wars for this country. No respect, still call us the N-word. Come back from World War I, World War II, and black men are being put in trees. But yeah, they talking about fighting for this country. Man, nah, we done done enough. How I feel about it personally, I don't believe no black people should be in the military. No. Now, if you want to go do it because you want certain benefits, that's on you. That's a choice, right? But I always say until you stop calling us the N-word, until we get our reparations, we shouldn't even think about that. Because I think we've done enough for this country. We've done enough. It's our time now. It's our time. So, yes, they ruined everything. You doggone right, sister, they ruined everything. And you got to keep throwing that in their face, too. Tell who got the country trillions of dollars in debt? Was it black people? Why the infrastructure is crumbling? Is that because of black people? Why you got dirty water in a place like Flint still to this day? Is that because of black people? We're not controlling any of that. Y'all ruin everything. And they don't like when we tell them the truth. So, you don't like what we say, fix it. Matter of fact, you like what we say, just give reparations. And maybe we can have a different, assessment. Because like Judge Mathis said, shout out to him, he said that, they could easily do reparations, just cut the military budget in half, and just do that for the next 20 years. That could be the reparations. I was like, you know what? That's a good idea. It could. Don't you think you got enough weapons already? And bombs and all of that? You got to keep giving so much money to military? I mean, it's silly. But we just sit back and watch, ladies and gentlemen. Sit back and watch because the show is going to be awesome. I promise you. I told y'all, look for 2030. That's going to be an interesting year.
Teenagers are building businesses with AI.
We are at the close, ladies and gentlemen. Want to make my comment here. Hold on. And I will be seeing you guys on Saturday night at 8 o'clock. So, you basically heard it. And it's just not, hold on. And it's just not possible to trust white boys and white girls with any magnitude of responsibility. They're a bunch of fuck-ups. They talk shit. They do shit that ain't supposed to be doing. And I'm here to tell you, white folks love to cheat, scheme, connive, and run shit into the ground. $37 trillion in debt, America? It's more like $150 trillion. It's just off the top of my head. The vaccine episode, hundreds of billions of dollars were made. $4 trillion came up missing from the crash of a so-called airplane that hit the Pentagon. So you can see where it's going. White folks They just the scum of the fucking earth. Period. They like flies that love to land on shit. Black people like bees. Love to be productive. We love to help in our community. We love helping our primary community of bees. We love producing honey. Now, why would a bee talk to a fly and say that honey tastes better than shit? Don't do that anymore. Please leave dumb motherfuckers alone. The white folks are dumb. They really think they're smart. They're dumber than a mother. So, for the next 24/7, 365, stay black. Always remember, stay black. Fuck all white folks.